everyone. Thank you for attending today's webinar, InfoTrends Top Takeaways from InfoComm 2018. My name is Brittany, and I will be your moderator for today's webinar. Before we get started, I do have a few housekeeping items to point out. There are a few options for the audio during this webinar, so if you do experience any difficulties using your computer audio, please use the numbers shown on the screen to dial in. During this webinar today, feel free to use the hashtag InfoTrends to submit any comments or questions you may have on any of the social channels shown above, and we will answer these at the end of the webinar. Everyone will be muted throughout the presentation. If you do have any questions, please use the chat feature to submit those, and we will answer them during the live Q&A at the end. Today's webinar is being recorded, so you will have access to view this recording anytime you'd like at the conclusion of this presentation. There is a settings gear in the upper left-hand corner if you need to make any adjustments to those. With that being said, we did have a last-minute change in presenter for the webinar today, so I would like to introduce Mike Peterson. Mike has over 23 years of engineering experience, including 2 decades in advanced visualization, and is an expert in developing visualization, simulation, and audio-visual technology solutions while incorporating professional-grade audio, video, projection, control, and computer graphics systems. Currently serving as a senior staff engineer for Mechdyne, Mike interacts extensively with clients to understand their needs and problems to develop creative and unique solutions. He is among an elite group of professionals holding both the CTSD and CTSI designation, a distinction held by fewer than 320 individuals, and was recently named CTS Holder of the Year by AVaaS. Now, without further ado, I will turn this over to Mike to get things started.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us this morning for our webinar. So as we get started here, I just wanted to make a couple of quick comments. One of the things we're going to talk about is that Mechdyne is vendor neutral. So we're going to be presenting some potentially specific brands and models of components here that we saw that we were interested in at InfoComm. But what we want to make sure is that any discussion of products does not necessarily mean that it's a recommendation of the product, unless we specifically say so. So we are completely vendor neutral, and we work very hard to only find the products that best meet our clients' needs for any particular scenario. So let's start with a little poll. So the first poll we're going to have here is, did you attend InfoComm 2018? So we'll give you guys a couple of minutes to answer whether or not you attended InfoComm this year. All right, so we got some really early answers here. The predominant answer is no. The vast majority of you did not attend InfoComm this year. So I'm glad you're here, because we're going to be able to help you understand some of the things that were there in InfoComm and some of the takeaways that we at Mechdyne came away with from our attendance there. So let's just give a quick overview of the event itself. The InfoComm trade show, it occurred, the trade show floor actually was open June 6th through 8th. The trade show itself was a couple of days before that with some training opportunities as well. But as far as the exhibit floor, it was open June 6th through 8th, and it's in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's a trade show focused on the pro AV industry. There were around 1,000 exhibitors at the trade show this year, and that number tends to continue to grow year over year. Almost 43,000 attendees from 110 countries were at the show there in Las Vegas. One of the things that's been interesting over the last few years is the number of end users or tech users that have attended the conference. There are almost more tech users this year than integrators. This used to be a very integrator-heavy show, where it was the integrators themselves were going to find and meet with the vendors and find new products and do some training. But more and more, the trade show is attracting actual end users, and so that's a very interesting trend. There was nearly 42% of the attendees in 2017, and 44% of the attendees in 2018 were actual tech users. As far as the show itself, at Mechdyne, we would consider this last year's InfoComm an incremental show. We don't feel like it was a very innovative show necessarily. Nothing really big was announced. AV over IP has been big over the last few years, and that continues to be a trend, and we'll continue to see that. But it's more of an evolutionary thing at this point and not revolutionary. One of the things that we saw this year is that it's kind of all shipping. For example, Crestron NVX was a big announcement last year, and that product, now they were just announcing how good that product was, how well it did shipping. It was boasting near zero failures and better performance than expected when exposed to some electrical noise or some switching scenarios. So it was a very big success for them. So it's more about, we saw the end result of what was shipping that was announced from last year. 4K 60 distribution and switching is becoming more mainstream. Almost everyone now has a 4K 60 product line, or they're rapidly moving that direction. The other thing we see is people continue to expand their product lines, continue to broaden them out, and we're going to cover that more here in a minute. So here's some of our top takeaways from the show this year, InfoComm 2018. One of the things that we noticed was a lot more AV subscription services. I think AV as a service is going to continue to be a huge growing trend, and we saw a lot of the vendors and manufacturers were beginning or continuing. They've started in the past, but in a growing way, and continuing to offer many of their products and services on a subscription basis. So how does it work? It's very much like anything that lots of trends you're seeing. You don't own it. It's a service that you pay for on a monthly or an annual fee. It's more of an operating expense versus a capital expense. And actually for many end users, that might be a very functional thing for them. Getting capital funds sometimes is much harder than being able to improve or get additional operating expense. So, it kind of depends on what bucket it's coming out of. It simplifies meeting your technology needs. You don't have to think so much about it. You pay the fee and everything's taken care of for you. Now, generally speaking, we would argue that long-term agreements, something on the order of 4 or more years, may be the most beneficial path to improving your services this way. It's still in the infant stages. We expect to see this service offered a lot more frequently, so stay tuned for that. One of the things we saw this year was plug-and-play products. The influence of consumer products continues to creep into the enterprise solutions. A couple of things we saw is we saw some artificial intelligence, image calibration, and blending. What they're trying to do with this is try and make it easier and easier for less trained users to take advantage of some of the more advanced features like image calibration and image blending. So in this case, there's cameras built into the projectors, and there's some software that runs, and it just automatically takes care of the image calibration and blending. Now, we've seen this in the past for a long time. There's been edge cases of advanced image calibration and automated warp and blend, but we're seeing it more in the mainstream. Even vendors such as Optima were releasing this as a demo at the show for products that they are presenting. The other thing we're seeing is hardware and software providers working more closely together with some of this. So what does it mean that the consumer products are creeping more into the enterprise solutions? Well, there's a couple of things. It's going to probably continue to drive some of the prices down, but it also means that it might have a negative impact on some of the long-term quality and stability that you might see as people are willing to accept a more consumer-grade product in their corporate environments or their enterprise environments. Another trend that we saw was a continuation toward one-stop shop solutions. We saw a number of manufacturers, and we've seen this trend, and it continued this year, that are expanding their product solutions. Many manufacturers now are trying to offer a full line of products that can integrate to simplify your implementation. So let me give you a couple examples. If you'd have been involved in this industry 15 years ago, you would have clearly seen Crestron as a control system company. That's what they did. They made control systems, and they were outstanding at it. What we're seeing is that they're continuing to grow and expand. So now Crestron has video switching and extension. They have audio. They even have speakers that are branded. So they're continuing to expand their product line to provide a greater and greater breadth of the piece of the pie in the pro AV environment. So there's a couple of paths that you can do that. Organically, that's what we're seeing Crestron do. They're just releasing more and more products of their own. They're doing the development or partnering with individuals on the outside, but Crestron branding the products. The other path toward this is what we've seen Harman do over the last number of years, which is, well, we're just going to combine a bunch of companies together and diversify our portfolio that way. So that's Harman Samsung's path, and there's a lot of individuals organizations trying it both ways. Now, one word of caution here: simplify does not necessarily equal the right solution or the better solution. It might be that buying all of your products from one manufacturer does provide some value, but on a case-by-case basis, you really need to make sure that each component that you're buying actually meets your specific needs and your specific workflows that you've established in your organization. So one of the things that Mechdyne and organizations like us can do is help work through that with you to make sure that each individual product that you're using is actually the correct product for your specific workflows and your specific enterprise environment. Direct-view LED continued to be a growth product on the trade show floor this year. Again, it's the display technology for seamless, scalable, large images. Now, what we find is that there's a number of manufacturers out there now that are continuing to grow and expand, but generally speaking, there's very little meaningful differentiation among the SMD LED display manufacturers. So a lot of them are offering from 1.5 and up in millimeter pitch ranges. A lot of the image qualities are very, very similar among the various manufacturers. Now, the one glaring exception to that would be Sony. Their Sony micro LED display, which is called Crystal LED, very clearly it was the best display on the show floor, has been for the last few years, and continues to be so. It's just hands down. You look at that display, and then you go and you look at other displays. Very clearly, that is the best display on the marketplace. So what are some of the market challenges that we find with direct-view LED? Well, we have a problem with price, for one thing. Anything that's what we consider fine pitch, which is 2.5 millimeter pixel pitch and below, and particularly when you get down to the sub 1 millimeter pixel pitch, it can be very expensive still to buy and integrate those types of displays into your environment. Manufacturers are going direct without the needed infrastructure. So instead of continuing to work through a channel partner or integrator partners, manufacturers are maybe doing more direct sales to the end client. But that might mean that not all of the background infrastructure support is being considered carefully as a part of that solution. And the other problem is the warranties for direct-view LED may lag competitive options still on the display marketplace. So what are some of our top innovative and interesting products that we saw this year at InfoComm? One of the things that we saw was the Digital Projection Insight AK. So this is a projector that produces 7840 by 4320 resolution, or AK resolution. If you want to understand what AK means, it's essentially it's 4 times 4K or 16 times full HD resolution. So it's a tremendous amount of pixel resolution there. This particular projector was 25,000 lumens, and it was a native 4K chipset projector, but was using pixel shift to get to the full 8K resolution. It was actually a very nice demo, and it was a beautiful projected image in the environment that they had it projected into. One of the other products that captured our interest this year was the Captiva Whiteboard camera. Yeah, this was released last year, but this is still a very innovative and interesting product for us. Basically, you can add it to any whiteboard up to 6 feet by 4 feet, and it basically takes a live video image of that whiteboard, and it does enhancements to it. So it squares up the image, it highlights, or it does video processing to make sure that any writing on that whiteboard is very clear and crisp, and then allows you to stream that or capture that video image from the whiteboard with others. It allows you to really use that whiteboard as a remote collaborative tool very easily. So there's no downloads or apps or installs involved. It's just a very slick product that they produced there. Another product that perked our interest this year was the Evoco Liso. Now there's a lot of room management or what we call scheduling panels out on the marketplace. This is a very slick little product. We liked both its form factor. It just looks very nice. They did a very nice job with the form factor of this product. And it's very easy to use. There's no subscriptions that are required, no ongoing licenses or maintenance. It's a very easy app available, and it just natively out of the box integrates directly into Outlook or G Suite or Lotus. It's secure and flexible, so it's just a very slick little product that is a nice addition to the marketplace for room scheduling panels. Another product that's of interest to us is the One Beyond Auto Tracker camera. This is an auto tracking camera that's produced by the company One Beyond. Now there's lots of auto tracking cameras out there on the marketplace, but many of them needed something special to work correctly. For example, you may need to wear a lanyard like the product from Vadio, or you may need some other type of marker involved to make sure that you're tracked correctly. This one is doing it all optically, and it's basically 2 cameras in one. As you can see the picture, there's a small camera in the bottom base of the image, and that's a wide angle camera that captures a full image of the room itself. And that's what's being used then to identify and track the presenter in the space. And it's very effective, and it's very slick. You do get both outputs available to you, so there's dual outputs on the backside. So not only do you get the tracked image camera, but you also still get the output from the wide angle view of the entire room. So it's a very effective product that allows you to use 2 cameras in one that can give you the wide angle of the space as well as the image that's very tracked onto the speaker. So it's a very, very neat little product that we think has a lot of promise. Now, Barcode ClickShare has been around for a long time. It's been out there for a number of years, but they made a couple of enhancements to the product this year that we think were really nicely considered. One of the most interesting features they added was a touchback feature. There's now a USB port on the back side of the receiver, And if you have a touchscreen display, you can actually connect the USB from the touchscreen to the backside of the Barco ClickShare receiver. And then when you hook up the ClickShare button to your laptop and you present from your laptop, you can actually then use the touchscreen, the large touchscreen at the end of the room, and touch back to the computer that you've connected the ClickShare button to. So then you can go and do markup or actually click and do file management or whatever you need to do right from where you're standing up by the large touchscreen, only you're interacting with your laptop or whatever computer you've connected the ClickShare button to. So very neat feature. We think a lot of people are going to take advantage of that feature with their touchscreen displays. They've also continued to improve the management tools available for Barco ClickShare, and we think that they've continued to put a lot of good thought into that product line. So let's take a couple of minutes and look ahead to what we think we're seeing for InfoComm 2019. What might we anticipate for next year? Well, a couple of things that we're looking at for next year is potentially high dynamic range in displays, and the entire video chain is going to be a focus. The focus for a lot of displays for a number of years has been more and more resolution. The next point there is 8K displays and supporting video chain products. We expect to see that grow as well. But there's going to come a point where additional resolution just has very little added value. As you think of an 8K display in a conference room, at some point you're at eye-limiting resolution, probably already there for most reasonable screen sizes in a small or medium-sized conference room at 8K resolution. And so continuing to add resolution is not going to be the way that projector or display manufacturers are going to be able to continue to differentiate themselves. So I think what you're going to begin to see is a differentiation of display products based on other factors than resolution. And one of those is going to be high dynamic range. And so I think you're going to see a lot more interest in seeing higher dynamic range or more color gamut, maybe Rec 2020 color support. You're going to see just a lot more interest on other things that the display manufacturers can use to differentiate their products from others other than resolution, because pretty soon that's not going to be something that's going to be able to differentiate displays any longer. Now, as I mentioned, we do think 8K is coming. You're going to see, you think, whoa, we just were at 4K. That's right. 4K is barely making its dent finally into the marketplace and starting to solidify its place. And yet here comes 8K right behind it. So yep, 8K displays and supporting video chain products. I think we will see a lot more of those in the next year, and you should expect to see more of that in InfoComm 2019. AI-enabled products, we think we're going to see more and more of those as well. The popularity of things like Amazon's Alexa product and other products like that. You think Apple has their Siri product or Google with the Google Assistant. There's just a lot of AI-enabled consumer products out there. And we think you're going to see more and more of that type of product line in the Pro AV products moving forward. Certainly we saw some of it this year, and actually some of it last year as well. It wasn't maybe quite as prevalent throughout the trade show floor, actually, as I may have expected yet this year in 2018, but I would expect to see much more of that coming in 2019. Again, I think we're going to continue to see increased attendance. I think it's a show that's gathering more and more attention in the marketplace. We're seeing a lot more end users that are continuing to find their interest in attending the trade show. And so we certainly believe that attendance is going to continue to grow. There's a lot of growth potential. It's still only about half the size or of the AV trade show in Europe. So we think there's going to be a lot of growth potential there for InfoComm. So let's take another poll here quick. So the second poll is this. What would you be most interested in seeing next year at InfoComm? High dynamic range in displays, AK displays and supporting products, or AI-enabled products? Okay, we're starting to see some answers in here. It does look like AI-enabled products might be one of the most interesting things for individuals to see, I think followed by high dynamic range. Interestingly, not many of you are interested in AK displays and their supporting products. And I think that's actually makes a lot of sense. I do think 4K and increasingly AK has very little actual improvement in day-to-day operations for an enterprise. So, yep, I think that's a very interesting trend. I do think AI and more automation and just making things easier to use, that will definitely be something that will be of interest in the future. So we moved through this very quickly. Perhaps the last-minute change in speaker, I missed maybe some of the talking points that my colleague had hoped to hit. But what we'll do is let's kind of open this up with some Q&A time. And if anyone has any questions, let us know, and we can see what we can do to answer those.
Great. So we actually do have a couple questions for you. The first one being, when do you think direct-view LED will take off in the market?
Yeah, that's a really good question. You're continuing to see more and more of it on the trade show floor. I think you're just right on the cusp of seeing it take off in the marketplace. It's just the expense of it is still what's going to hold it back. And so I think over the next few years, as more and more of it gets manufactured and the manufacturing technologies improve and they are more mass manufacturing it, you're going to see the prices come down. And I think once the prices begin to come down, I think in a couple of years, my guess is in about 2 years, you will definitely see a lot more direct-view LED out there in the marketplace. But yeah, I think what's holding back right now is still that cost factor and trying to get that price down.
Great. Another question for you. If I can buy more components for a project from a single manufacturer, why isn't that better or the right solution?
Yeah, again, that's a great question. And it all depends on the scenario that you're in. It might actually very well be a great solution for you, depending upon what you're trying to do and what your needs are. There's one of the benefits of having a single manufacturer in all the products is that, we talk about one throat to choke. You only have, one manufacturer. Hey, if something's broken, you don't have manufacturers pointing fingers at each other, accusing the other product of being the problem product. So yeah, there are certainly some benefits potentially having all of the products purchased from a single manufacturer. However, as I mentioned earlier, one of the drawbacks is that maybe some of the components that you're getting as a part of that deal aren't exactly what you need for your enterprise needs and workflow. And so just a lot of care needs to be taken to make sure that you're not just rushing in to buying all your products from a single manufacturer with the hope of some of the promise of that, while you're losing potentially some of the product features and the benefits that you need to be most efficient in your own workflows in your enterprise. So in that case, a little vendor neutrality is bringing in the very best components from any manufacturer that meets exactly what you need on each component level. And that's where you might have some benefit to that type of project approach.
All right. The next question is, telehealth is on the grow. Do you see any presence at InfoComm?
That's a great question. Curiously enough, no. We saw very little, telehealth as a product line or very few products that were oriented specifically toward a healthcare market. By the way, I agree with the premise. Telehealth is definitely on the rise. I think most people are just taking advantage of more general industry products to do what they need to do for telehealth, as opposed to requiring any type of specialized products for that. But I agree. I would expect to see more manufacturers, at the very least, show telehealth type demos with their existing product line at future InfoComms. And as a follow-up question for that, there's a question: does Mechdyne work in the telehealth realm? We can certainly work with telehealth telehealth providers as needed. I wouldn't say that we have a very deep portfolio in that, but it's certainly something that we would love to have conversations with anyone about, and see what we could do to help improve your workflows and help meet your client needs in a telehealth world.
Perfect. How will artificial intelligence make for better AV?
Yeah, how will artificial intelligence make for better AV? Well, all the promises that you see in artificial intelligence in other places, it's going to make it just easier to use. It's going to make it much more intuitive to use, is the hope. Again, I would like to use the term advanced automation as much as anything. AI certainly is a part of that, but one of the hopes here is that when you walk into a conference room or you walk into a space, it almost predicts what you want to do in the space. It predicts your needs. Perhaps it even recognizes who you are somehow. It recognizes your phone, or it recognizes your face. It maybe does facial recognition. It knows who you are. It maybe has a preference set for how you want to use the room, and so it automatically configures the room to your preferences. And maybe it automatically recognizes that you have a meeting scheduled for the space, and so it automatically dials up your meeting automatically for you, fires up what you need in the space. So my hope is that as we see continued growth of AI or advanced automation, that you see more magical types of things occurring in the pro AV realm. Arthur C. Clarke once said, "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic." And that's one of the things that we would like to continue to do here at Mechdyne, to create some AV magic by creating such advanced technological spaces that you walk in and you're like, hey, wait, how did it know what I wanted to do even before I went to do it? We want it to be almost like it reads your mind. And we think AI is going to be a great tool toward that end.
Great. So why do you think more companies are offering the plug-and-play or one-stop shop options? I know you touched a little bit on this, but can you expand?
Sure. Again, it's a simple business thing, right? It's a dollars and cents thing. You think of a company like Crestron or Extron. They're just looking to find a way to expand their portfolio so they can make more money. That's the rub of it. If they can sell not only the control system, but they can sell the video switching and the speakers and the amps and the audio DSP. That's just more money they make on every AV project. So that's the clear, obvious answer as to why more companies are offering the one-stop shop options. It just allows them to improve their margins and their overall profitability. As far as the plug-and-play side of that, again, I think that's also it's just the consumerization of the pro AV realm, and it's trying to make it more easy to use, and it's trying to require less specific expertise, perhaps, to make the AV work in your environment. So.
Great. Do you think Mechdyne will start offering AV as a service?
Interesting. Definitely. I think Mechdyne will be offering AV as a service. In fact, we've been quoting that to a few companies already, to offer that type of thing. Again, we've been offering more like a lease type product in the past, but we definitely see AV as a service being a growing offering that Mechdyne is going to provide. And so one of the things that I really like about that, again, is that it might be a budget problem solver for some clients. Some clients, again, as I mentioned earlier, may find it much easier to go find operating expense money than it is for them to go try and get capital expense approvals. Sometimes it's a whole different process that goes much higher up in the management structure of a enterprise to get big capital expense approved. And it's much easier in many cases to get recurring operational expense approved. So one of the things that we're hoping is that it can just help our clients find a way to pay for the technologies that they need or to fund that. So yeah, we're very excited about the potential.
Great. We do have a question similar to that. Does AV as a service include placing an on-site manager via Mechdyne?
Certainly that can be part of it. We do a lot. We've done on-site staffing for a long time. In fact, we've got dozens of employees that serve as on-site staff right now, currently, in a number of different manufacturers, or a number of different enterprises. Sorry. So yeah, definitely. Again, there'll be a lot of different package pricing available for AV as a service. But yeah, the highest end of the package services for AV as a service will definitely include placing an on-site manager in your enterprise as needed, and that person will be able to serve your AV needs right there on site. So yeah, definitely.
Great. Next question is, with 4K 60 switches and extenders coming into the market, will color subsampling be a way to separate high quality from low quality products?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jeff. One of the things that we're trying to figure out is, okay, so is it 4K 60 full 444 color subsampling, or in order to save the bandwidth, are they lowering their color subsampling to something more like a 420? And there's some products on both. In most cases, if they are not doing any color subsampling, if they're sampling the color at full 444, they're going to make a big splash about that. So their products will be listed as 4K 60 444 because it's a differentiator for them. So yeah, definitely, I think you'll see that as a differentiation. Now, again, the challenge with that is, especially as you look at network-based products, and as we see AV over IP products continuing to grow, if you really want 4K 60 444, you're probably looking at a 10 gig switching infrastructure, and you're probably not doing a very good job on a gigabit network infrastructure for full 4K 60 444 products. Definitely though, color subsampling and even the color bit depth. Whether are you going to can you support 4K 60 444 at 10-bit or 12-bit color? Again, as we talk about differentiation, moving away from more and more resolution, you're going to see more and more products trying to support both the full color subsampling as well as even higher color bit depths. So yeah, for sure.
So the next one is kind of a comment question. The first time I saw 8K, it was a backroom demo at National Association of Broadcasters 4 to 5 years ago. I was amazed that it almost looked 3D due to the image depth. I've not seen it since. Do others perceive that effect also?
Actually, that's a really interesting question. I would say yes. I think there's a lot of individuals who would say when you see enough resolution, you almost do get more of a 3D sense from that product. And so, yeah, the quick answer is yes. And so, yeah, I think others do perceive that effect.
Okay. What are the best applications for direct view LED in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, so the best application for direct view LED certainly still need a very large display. I don't think direct view LED is going to be a very good product for most conference rooms you really need a space that requires a big display. We're talking displays, that are, 8 feet tall or more, right? And very wide. Very, very big displays is where I think you're really going to want to begin to look at your direct view LED. Some of the other best applications for direct view LED would be any place where you have a lot of light. So you think atriums, or you think very, very well lit spaces. One of the key advantages direct view LED is the fact that it's super bright, and you don't have to worry about whether you have too much ambient light that's washing out the image. It's just very bright. So yeah, direct view LED is also very ideal for any brightly lit spaces as well. So very, very big displays in brightly lit spaces is pretty much the idealized space for direct view LEDs. But any large display would benefit from a direct view LED display, just because if you get a large enough display, it really is it's a gorgeous display. It's truly seamless, and it just has a lot of advantages that way.
Okay. A question related to that: what should you look for in a direct view LED solution?
Yeah, again, as I mentioned earlier, one of the things that you might want to look for in direct view LED display is how much do they? It's basically ongoing service and support from the manufacturer. A lot of, especially the SMD displays, there's very little differentiation on image quality. So certainly some of them look a little better than others, but other than the Sony Crystal LED, as we mentioned, all the rest are fairly on par with one another. So at that point, what you really want to look at is, okay, what kind of ongoing support are you going to get on that display? Look at warranty lengths, look at ongoing support. Those are the types of things that I personally would be looking for on how to differentiate which direct view LED display to use.
Okay. What is going on with OLED? Does LG still own the space even though Sony started it?
Well, certainly LG seems to be the only manufacturer, or at least one of the key manufacturers, displaying anything interesting with OLED this year. Certainly LG has some really cool products. They've had some products that are kind of bendable products, curvable products that you can use to show direct view LED or OLED, displays. They continue to have like double-sided products that have like two OLEDs back to each other, but still super thin, double-sided OLED products on the LG side. So I still have a lot of high hope for OLED, and for those of you who don't know, OLED stands for Organic Light Emitting Diode, and it's a very cool technology that can get it's kind of a direct emitting technology that you can manufacture it very, very thin. In fact, you can manufacture it so that it's actually bendable, foldable. At CES this year, actually, they were showing a roll-up OLED display. So it's like a little box, and this OLED display literally unrolled itself out of the box and rose up into display, and then they can roll it back down into the box. So it's a very intriguing product, lots of promise, and but no, at this point, LG still kind of owns that space right now, as far as anything meaningful in the Pro AV market.
That's really interesting. Was everyone showing laser projections this year? Is it old news now?
Yep, that's a very good question. Yeah, pretty much. If you're not in the laser, if you're a projector manufacturer and you're not in the laser projector game, then you are really behind. And so, absolutely. But with the continued improvements and price reductions for very large direct view displays, just even large LCD displays, flat panel displays, up to 98 inches. Projectors are finding it harder and harder to find a spot in the small and medium conference room space. So especially if you still have to change lamps on a regular basis and have all that pain and headache. So laser phosphor displays or laser projectors or projectors that have like 20,000 hours of life. You don't need to change a bulb on a laser projector for that period of time. So 20,000 hours of life on the display. And so, yeah, it definitely makes projectors a lot more interesting again. So because you've gotten rid of all that lamp hassle with a projector. So absolutely, almost everyone was showing laser projectors, and at this point, yeah, that's pretty much old news. So.
Awesome. Well, that is all we have for questions. So thank you, everyone, for attending and submitting questions. Be on the lookout for an email with a link to the recording and a survey where we ask that you provide any feedback and submit any additional questions. And have a great rest of your day.